down here that, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff?
Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is SOUQ Business Landscape.
Hello and welcome to SOUQ Business Landscape, your weekly deep dive into the world of business, the evolving economy, and forces shaping development across industries and nations. Each episode, we break down trends, challenges, and innovations that drive market and move societies forward. I am Olumide Sokoya. We are the four horsemen. Starting from my left, I have looking charming. I think he represents something from the east, the eastern part, or... Well, this is Krumale.
No, I'm looking like,
okay. Cap.
Thank you very much.
Is it a ceremonial cap?
In fact, I just picked it from the wardrobe. I don't know. Just where. So,
I also have on the far left, I have Emmanuel Amolo. How you doing?
Very well to be here again to come and bring analysis to the issues.
By the powers vested in me, I also present our very own think tank. It is an institution like Priye calls him, Dr. Idahosa. So glad to have you.
And
I like your cap also.
Thank you. As observant participant today. I'm here to learn. Keep sending your feedbacks. We are very receptive to diverse opinion.
But since it is Friday, allow me to say this. There was supposed to be like the cap was to be tilted to your right side, but you did it to the left. Olumide's was supposed to be tilted to the left side, but he straightened it. It's against custom.
Well, I know
it's against custom.
Well, custom determined by the exigencies and the peculiarities of the time. Probably a new custom is emerging.
I read somewhere where...
but things start at a particular point in time.
Yeah, but the one is on the left, maybe you're a bachelor,
yes.
when it's on the right, you're married.
Yes.
And then when it's in front,
what?
Those sides mean something.
I have no idea.
You have no idea when it's front.
So I think it's left when you're married, right when you're single.
Yes.
So Doc is right. He's always on the left.
No, it's supposed to be on the right.
For married.
Yes.
And
The single guy was supposed to put it on the left.
Yes.
So they are the ones who do opposites. Doc, you're still in the market.
Well, you see, that is what I'm saying. Who defined the culture? That's Priye's definition.
No, it's actually started.
All right, so...
No. It's a definition.
Okay.
One must meet, it says another must...
I can see Lukman's.
When do we start to send applications?
Lukman is a bachelor, I think, and it is... Oh, it's not a bachelor, but it's on the left.
So doctor is right.
Okay. All right, so let's take a look at some of the key highlights for today's discussion. From farm to market, federal government and states unite to end roadblock and rising prices. From agreement to action, can Nigeria's unity bring down food prices? Secondly, President Tinubu unveils projects in Kaduna, pledges 100 billion naira for rail. With this new signal, a new era in northern infrastructure. Thirdly, Nigeria pushes for stronger ECOWAS economy as West Africa Economic Summit begins today in Abuja. Can regional unity drive real growth? And lastly, Nigeria and Germany seal a 20 million euro green energy deal. Is this the boost Nigeria's power sector needs? What does this even mean for Nigeria's economy, investors, and everyday citizens? We'll find out after the break. Stay tuned.
Take Nigeria because it's the mind that needs to first of all be rebranded.
Idris said he's going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigeria content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff?
Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is SOUQ Business Landscape.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
Take Nigeria because it's the mind that needs to first of all be rebranded.
Idris said he's going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigeria content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff?
Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is SOUQ Business Landscape.
Welcome back to SOUQ Business Landscape. So we begin. Nigeria's 36 state governors have reached a consensus with the federal government to harmonize levies, dismantle illegal checkpoints, and ensure seamless movement of goods across the country in a joint bid to combat food inflation and insecurity. Governor Hope Uzodinma, chair of the All Progressive Governors Forum, confirmed that both the Progressive Governors Forum and the Nigerian Governors Forum endorsed the immediate rollout of state-level security outfits to bolster federal effort, despite a technical drop in the national year-on-year food inflation rate to 21.14% in May 2025, down from 40.66% in May 2024 due to a change in the base year. Month-on-month prices continue to climb, driven by high transportation costs, insecurity, and supply chain disruptions. Many of the worst-hit states are ironically among Nigeria's top food producers, exposing a troubling disconnect between local agricultural output and consumer access. Starting with Priya, it's quite funny that most food-producing states are the most affected. But with this new removal of checkpoints, blockage, and all that, do you think that it will actually scale up food production, food processing?
Okay, first of all, the purpose for this is harmonize levies. Eliminate illegal checkpoints, enhance free flow of goods across states. First of all, I think probably they listen and they watch this program so that by the time Dr. Idahosa and myself and Omobola, we are exchanging views, they will understand the reason why. If you are going to take care of agriculture and make sure that the staple foods in Nigeria gets to every nook and cranny, or it gets to the people that needs to live by them at an affordable and reasonable, cost-effective price. One of the things to take care of that is the root cause is security.
Sure.
And if we trace back to when we start having the bandits and the terrorists started attacking farms, cutting away goods, if we trace it back there, we will know, or we'll be able to connect when the food inflation in Nigeria started taking a very, very increasing step. And I'm glad that they're coming up with this. But you see, action, they said, speak louder than words. And we're talking about the fact that most of the states that produces their food production, food-producing states like Benue, most of them are domiciled in the northern part of this country. Most of them have security challenges. Niger State that we are talking about recently that has a collaboration with Aliko Dangote. If you look at the project that Niger State has put on ground, if that project comes into fruition, the benefits of that project spreads across the contiguous communities where that project will be domiciled, because we are talking about electricity that will even, the plant there will be producing electricity of 5 megawatts for the industries that we place in that environment to benefit from. Then we take our attention down to rice farming. And, Chooks will say that if we look at Niger State alone, and we harness all the human capital resources in taking advantage of that environment as far as rice farming and farming is concerned, agricultural produce, it has the capacity to feed the whole of Nigeria and to also export the products to outside this country. So we should look at that. The Mokwa Bridge collapse that took place in Niger State, I think, recently also contributed its own disadvantage, even though it was very, very recent, but it exacerbated the whole problem that had been on the ground, because most of the trucks that were used to move agricultural produce from that part of town down to the urban centers or down to the southwest or the southern part of the country, you know, there's this blockade. The bridge collapsed, and so they cannot find their way in here, even though they are going to start using alternative routes. That in itself is going to, you know, expand and increase the price of logistics. Flood, disaster. We are in the rainy season. So I was told that if you want to know the true state of the level of road infrastructure in Nigeria, don't do it during the dry season. Wait until it is the raining season. The roads you think or you felt they were good and they were up to the standard to ferry our goods from one part of the town to another, they are just being covered probably with sand or with debris. Because when it starts raining, you start seeing big, deep ditches and potholes. And that will hinder the pace at which these vehicles now go. And the cost of transportation is something is not. So if they're going to take care of these, as they're taking care of these, attention to security, our farmers need to go to the farm, not with fear and trembling, but with an atmosphere that they can be assured of, that their lives will still remain intact when they are done with their day's work at the farm.
Emmanuel, over to you. Do you think that this, just like Priya said, harmonize all levies, eliminate checkpoints and roadblocks? Do you think the federal government and the state are actually addressing the root cause of this inflation, or these are just short-term fixes?
Thank you, first of all. But then again, I kind of agree to take a journey of 1,000 steps. You still have to move an inch, even if it's one step. We know this situation with the prices of food, which eventually can lead to higher inflation, starts from somewhere. Part of the fixes is what they are doing now. Whether it will get to or give you a long-term effect is yet to be seen. And that's where perhaps investors would say, let's hold and watch for a while. But you still have to do something, because you cannot start and then hope it will get to 100. You have to start somewhere. Whether these steps that are taken is the right one, yes, they are taking the right steps. Now, whether it will transcend into what we expect eventually is, there are lots of things that need to be put in place. Because right now it's still looking like political statements. Let's see it, because we've heard it a lot of times. Oh, let's start with stopping the road. It's just like when the police IG will come and say, we're removing police officers from VIPs. So you go to the next event, you see them there. You'll be like, did the man just announce this thing? The same thing where you say, no more roadblocks in certain places. Usually when they bring a new IG, they say the same thing. These roadblocks that we know, many of them are through our security agencies. Now, they were placed there to help check things like illegal goods moving from place to place. But now that we are seeing that perhaps we don't need so much of them, let them now focus on other things. It now gives room for individual states to now focus their security elsewhere, maybe like protecting more of the farmlands than the produce getting from one place to another. It is a good step, because now things like the prices they get to pay at these checkpoints, because let's not kid ourselves, they pay checks in these places. They now put those things together, and then the cost of production now comes down a bit. Now the prices of goods now comes down a bit, and more people can now afford to buy these things, and then the travel time from farmland to your table now gets shorter. interestingly, the steps that they are taking, the vision is very good. We just wanted to see it actualize for a longer term. Because now it's looking like, oh, they can do it in the next first week. Let's see what it brings out. First 2 weeks. But if it is sustainable, it will be a very, very good move.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. So, Doctor, over to you. Now, we need a lot of investors in our agricultural sector. Now, with this resolution, with this new step, do you think it would help boost investor confidence?
Well, I think sometimes it's unfortunate the way our elite think or reason in terms of problem solving. Because we don't sit down really to do some root cause analysis of some of the things that actually affect us and how we can, in the long term, reduce some of the crises or the inhibitants that are here on the way. I'm not sure, I'm not completely sure that the states even know those who are placing this levy on the farmers. Such a way that you can actually control them. You see, it's when your officers are the one who are leveling people money, you can actually say, okay, let's put a stop to it. But most of the levies that you see that these transporters pay, they are paid to non-state actors most of the time.
When you say non-state actors?
No, I'm saying people who are not in the payroll of government.
Okay.
You take, for example, we have bandits collecting tax in Niger State from farmers. In some part of Kebbi State. So before you move the goods out, they are on the road to collect these things. And if you don't take it, you incur their route. So these are part of the issues and the conversation. So I'm thinking, as they are also thinking and saying, what is the real long-term solution to some of all these issues? That is not something that can happen immediately. The state, can they begin to also invest in some infrastructure that can make this thing very, very easy? Take, for example, Coastal Road is not ready. So if you are moving goods from Yam, for example, from Onitsha to Lagos, we can actually use the waterway. We don't necessarily have to go through the road, which makes the route shorter and probably safer, and arrive in Lagos with some good prices. So which means state may need to invest in port infrastructure, those that have water area, like Benue, Kogi. So these are waterborne area that will actually get goods to the waters. How about rail infrastructure? Can state also unite to say, okay, like they call it in the Nehemiah principle, you build the front of your house. You construct a rail from Imo to the end of Imo, and Abia take it from there. And somebody take it from there. And then, of course, we are able to connect the entire nation by rail. And then it becomes a cheaper mode of transportation of some of these products that we're talking about. That's a solution on one end. Then, of course, you cannot be saying that, of course, you have a control over the logistic infrastructure that you are putting in place. Because it's just not about the levies on the road that actually is increasing the price of food. So it's not just the levy on the road. It's also about these actions here. The road size is quite bad. And states are waiting for federal government to fix federal roads. And the federal don't have the muscle to fix those roads. And therefore, we have to wait. And the drive time now, of course, increases. And these guys are burning more fuel and more diesel to transport their product from where they are produced to where they are. And some of the farms don't even have access road in the first place. So how do we get this thing to the city center and make it cheaper to move from the city center to the other commercial center where they will be sold? These are all issues. Now, of course, we also have issues even about production, which, of course, is a major issue. Production, because if you have enough, like the law of demand and supply says, is that the more the supply, likely, and the demand is not equal to supply, prices are going to be affected. Because we can only do arbitrage when there is no so much to sell. So can we also emphasize and see state government entering into partnership, for example, with local investor, private investor, who they say, okay, we are giving you like 100 hectares of land. We are giving you 1 million hectares of land, and we want you to cultivate just one product, maybe beans, maybe rice, maybe tomato, maybe yam, and you produce in commercial quantity. And then, of course, it flows the market, and the price naturally will have to reflect what is the supply strength of that particular product. Now, these are the conversations that I feel we should be having. And I think this is what the governors must be thinking about and see how we can improve infrastructure, how we can develop farms that people can be interested in, whether rice farm, maize farm, whatever it is, but that we see this commodity, we are having it in large, in commercial quantity, because somebody is in the farm and the state has opened up that avenue, and then we can sell. Look at one of the issues that we have talked about in recent time, which is also the problem of ranching. Our president was in Benue recently, and he was saying to the governor, look, these things are in your hand. We can give you all the assistance that we can, but you see, you are the principal force here who is going to ensure that everybody live together in peace so that can do business. In short, you even make a statement and you say, I need land. Give me land so that I can do ranch in your state.
Yes.
And then I will pay taxes to you and increase your revenue.
As IGR, yes.
So yes, of course, they can share the profit. That is what it is. So what it means is that if you allow these things to happen, we've talked on this table about Denmark, a small country that is making so much from dairy products.
Yes.
Over $45 billion annually from dairy products, from milk to cheese to what is it?
Those are the byproducts of
yes,
milk, yes.
Yes, of course, that they are selling. And this is where we need to be.
Tap into,
Animals are not well fed because we are moving them for too long a distance. So can we create an environment where they can be properly fed and watered, and then we have the best of milk from them, we have the best of hide and skin, we have the best of flesh for our people to eat. These are the conversations that state must enter into. And this, for me, is the real core, and that's what needs to be addressed.
Okay, all right. All right, let's add this to your answer. One of the other issues that we need to also fix, you mentioned it, you touched a bit of it, is climate issues. Now, you also said that we are in the rainy season.
Yes.
We need to plan for that. Last year, a particular city almost went underwater.
True.
We remember that.
Yeah.
What do you think is the lasting solution to this? Because we also have to take care of this.
Okay, so let me first of all make a statement concerning this. We never plan for it. We have never planned. We have never. I think it is the National Meteorological Agency, NIMET.
They give out
it gives the warning to states that look, the season is coming, and from indications that we have seen by virtue of the studies that we have done, they start mentioning states that look, the floods are going to get to you. In fact, they are even sending emergency messages to some specific terrains in different states that look, they gave calculations, your state is going to sink underwater, you need to move and you need to leave. The people there will not move. The government of the state will not take a decisive action until flood has come in at that specific period that NIMET has, gave their forecast, and it will sweep the people away. About 2 years ago, the flood was so bad, I think it should be somewhere in the northern part of the country, that some of the federal government's projects that has been done in terms of building roads that are almost 80% complete, the flood took it away. The flood ate it up completely. About 600,000 hectares of land went. Farming produce, because it was the time for harvest, and it took it away. That was how devastating that natural disaster was. But the thing is, warning had gone ahead. The chief executives of the states need to stand on their toes. we have never taken it to those warnings, and it is bad for administration, it is bad for government, it's bad for governance, and our economies are paying for it. After the flood has done that, the people will now go to IDP camps. The governors will now go and visit them and start giving out pittance for them to live. It is wrong. Now, that's one part. Number two is Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State. In this meeting, he said that states had contributed $2.2 billion. All the states, because the report said 36% of the states
yes.
in conjunction with the National Security Advisor,
Yes.
the Minister of Defense, the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock Development, and even the Ministry of Transportation. They are coming together to see how they can bring lasting solution to this problem. If Babajide Sanwo-Olu is saying that in convergence, the state has put together $2.2 billion to make sure they tackle this problem. And we are still having this much inefficiency in the system. It is a very big problem because we need to start asking this $2.2 billion into what aspect or what sector, what industry, what sector in this agriculture that we put it into, that we can't get the outcome. We're supposed to see outcome. $2.2 billion is a lot of money. I don't think what we have currently now can speak. It's not commensurate with the injection of that
This is the
fund.
point, is that because we treat most of the time simple. Let me give you, for example, in Lagos State here. Lagos had built one of the biggest rice mills in Africa.
Yes.
In the Jeddah area. Massive infrastructure. But where are the rice?
Even before that, we had the lake rice that we had
collaboration with that was Kebi.
Yeah,
the rice was
Kebi.
good, but
yes.
of course that couldn't continue.
Yeah, it gave rise
so
to
they
that
decided to build their own
meal. Yes.
In Lagos. We're not seeing Lagos rice because there are no paddies in Lagos. Paddies are supposed to be sourced from the outside. Who is planting the paddies? That's the point I'm making. I started also thinking that, look, it's just to see how can we really get. Yesterday on this table I was talking about what they call supplier development. What supplier development? You have a value chain of a production. So assume I'm producing cap. Somebody is supplying me cotton. But the person supplying me cotton is not the cotton farmer. Maybe he buy, process, and grade. Now, he can only supply me the much that he gets from the farmer.
True.
So I, who is the final user, I'm saying, yes, I can see you, the visibility of my immediate supplier. But I need to see more into the visibility of the supplier of the supplier of the supplier. And see where the problem is on the value chain and see where I can put my investment. So they make the work of my first line supplier easy. So I have to develop the capacity of these guys in this area. And then, of course, they are able to actually give me enough supply that can make my trade to do well. So these are the things that we need to look at. Statements, for example, Lagos, for example, who has invested heavily on a processing machine, must also find a way to see how do we develop farmers who are going to be producing paddies for us. This could be something that you have to do in a contract to say, okay, you have the potential to do farm. And I'm asking, okay, I want to liaise with the governor, for example, of Kwara State, governor of Kogi State. You give us like 100 million hectares of land that we can cultivate to grow paddy for our infrastructure that we have in processing. So you give me this thing, and okay, we are going to mobilize farmers together to begin to cultivate rice. And so we can make a prediction to say, this is the quantity or the tonnage of paddy that this machine in Lagos needs to be able to feed this industry. And then it's produced straight from Kwara. Kwara is getting some advantage because they have opened up that farm area for them, because the product that are leaving Kwara, there are some taxes that's getting to the government. And Lagos process it and they sell, and there is something that, of course, VAT comes in here because of value addition that you have done to it, and they are making profit from it. Employment is generated both in Kwara and in Lagos. Now, this kind of partnership is what they should be thinking about. But when you are making investment and you are not factoring into what is going to feed that industry that you are investing in, is like at the end of the day, you would have put some money in this project, and this money is not doing anything useful. I had a conversation 2 years ago with a commissioner of finance from Borno State, and he told me that they had world-class factories that they have built in Borno State. That the only one of it that was only making little contribution was the plastic industry. But all other ones, they were built a state-of-the-art facility, but they are not in use. So you can quantify that into your investment, because while you are thinking of those investments, you're actually not thinking of to see how this thing is going to work and add value to both the economy and the people of your state. And this is where the states, most states are actually missing it. And I also love what the president said in Benue. And he said, look at your peers, you are here. So what are you doing with your time? Can't you people come together and actually put it together and say, how do we solve our problems? Which means, of course, he's also thinking about collaborations among state governors who will sit down to actually think and say, okay, you produce X, I produce Y, let this person produce Z, and then, of course, this is the outcome eventually. And all of us are collaboratively benefiting from whatever thing that is getting out of those factories. I think this is where the real issues are, where people are not having conversation, but they are doing investment, but they are not actually adding up to the output at the end of the day.
Okay. So,
Right, so in less than a second, or less than a minute, rather.
Okay, so, earlier on, when Doc was talking, we were mentioning things about infrastructure and how the absence of it, has really truncated the level of development that we have in agriculture. And my mind goes to the state or the regional development commissions that we now have. The Southeast Development Commission is there. Then
literally all the regions now
all the regions now have development commissions. So who are they accountable to? At the beginning of every budgeting year, what is your plan as a regional development commission? What are the projects that you have? Because he was talking about building a state from Abia, you stop at Anambra, or they took it from that. Sometimes these development commissions are to come in and relieve the state governors from those tasks so that they can connect some of the economic nexus between state A and state B, or between these regions, and they can do that by just establishing infrastructure, put them in place so that the governor, that alone creates an ecosystem or supports, complement the ecosystem that is already on ground, and allow the businessmen to run on it. And because they don't do these things, we ask questions. These regional development commissions, please, what are your duties? Show us on paper your plan. Show us at the end of the year who hold them to account, that come and give account of your region.
But look at it this way. I also have the opportunity, while I was working in a research company, to have worked for SOUQ some years ago, and it was on NDDC projects. And we were going to develop a communication program for NDDC, because at that time people actually look up to it as like a regional government.
Yes.
Really, from the viewpoints of government, it was supposed to be an intervention agency.
Yeah.
That where states cannot substantiate so many things. So we created those regions, we created NDDC in the first place to actually drive the process
community development
of supporting state government so that we can get into the hinterland and then the communities are developed. But thanks to Mr. President, who of course had leveled it up right now to make it 6, that each geopolitical entity now have their own regional development commissions. Of course, they just inaugurated the one for Southeast, and then of course the Southwest, then of course the Northwest, the Northeast, and the rest of it, and then the Middle Belt. So we now have those agencies in place. But you see, there's something that I observed while studying this commission, especially NDDC as a prototype. You see, when NDDC was commissioned, what I observed was the fact that the budgetary allocation to NDDC, about 80% was getting into infrastructure, even though they were substandard by every rate. Because in those communities I visited, what I saw was that people feel that a pipe bomb water was put in place, and then after the commissioning, it didn't stop running. Because there's a tank somewhere that somebody has put in place, and then, of course, they run it, and at the end of the day, it's really not supplying water. And in most of the cases where the bore were actually done, they were not done in such a way that they were processing. because the water that was coming from the borehole were actually not drinkable, especially when you look at the topography of the South. So these were some of the issues that people really observed. We also who could construct road, for example, to Bridge Burutu and Bomandi because it's all waterlogged. Now, as at that time in 2006, the participants that are engaged had told me that they were spending between 3,000 and 3,006 to ferry between that. And of course, if you look at the road network that would join that thing, if they drive it on a drive time, it should not be up to more than 15 minutes of drive to cross both so that they can actually exchange. But those infrastructure were really not built by the state or NDDC. But what did we notice? 6 years after the NDDC was formed to address that problem, there was a reversal of rule. What that means was that where they were spending 80% on capital project and 20% on recurrent, the thing changed places. So 80% was recurrent, 20% was going to infrastructure, capital, which of course was no longer sufficient. And by the time, of course, the Ministry of Nigeria Delta was created, it makes it purely worse. So, but you understand some of all these things that when you hear agency created, it's really not for developmental purpose. Is to create more room for the elites to begin to find their place where to eat.
Exactly.
So this is where the challenge is for us. That if we are going to address issues of development, we must not be considering what the elites needs to occupy. We must be thinking about what benefit the people.
Yes. Obasanjo, when it was, I think it was in his administration that the NDDC
came up.
Came up. I don't think that was created as a loophole for corrupt politicians to come and...
I'm not saying, you see, there's a gap between what you are told to do and what you eventually do. Let me give you two examples. For example, we are talking state structure here. When we were looking for money in 2004, and World Bank was not giving us loan. And they say until you put structure in place that are going to see that loan is given to you, you will not, we will not give you.
Yes.
And they said, okay, what do we need? And they said, you need an accountable system. For example, there is so much corruption in your public procurement process. There's so much corruption in terms of financial responsibility. People are reckless in spending. So if you can put 3 structures in place, that is the Bureau for Public Procurement, that will regulate what procurement is doing, and you put into place a Fiscal Responsibility Commission that ensure that public funds are used wisely. And then, of course, there was another agency that was supposed to be created. So this agency, the federal state government actually created it. Now, one of the features, for example, of BPP was the fact that there was going to be a council where, of course, experts are going to be recruited to form a council to drive that process. Eventually, that council was never created. Because the intention of those who were creating BPP was not because they want BPP to work, but they needed access to loan from the federal government. So you must be able to distinguish between intention and what is actually being carried out. And this is the point I am making to you. Why is it very important who become the MD of NDDC, for example?
Okay.
So this ownership is the problem I have. And that's why I'm saying that when you hear people talk about creation of state, creation of local government, creation of agency, we're not really thinking in terms of development. What we're thinking about is how do we accommodate more elites that we can continue to hold on to the power of government. But this is the what Cloud, blessed memory, had always hammered, that until we put development on the table, some of these agencies may not be able to deliver on the outcome, which of course that the citizens are expecting. Because at the end of the day, you're actually doing some bidding of some people, and as long as those people are benefiting, it's fine for the political actors.
All right, so let's go on a short break. It's still SOUQ Business Landscape. Let's go on a short break, and when we come back, we continue with the program. Stay tuned.
Take Nigeria, because it's the mind that needs to first of all be rebranded.
Idris said he's going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigeria content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that, you know, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff.
Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is SOUQ Business Landscape.
Cashew nuts, ranked among Ivory Coast top cash crops, play a crucial role in the country's economy, generating substantial revenue and supporting livelihoods across the country. As the world's leading exporter of raw cashew nuts, Ivory Coast contributes an estimated $800 million annually to its economy and also serves as a vital source of income for over 410,000 families, particularly in rural areas where few other opportunities exist. Cashew trees flourish in Ivory Coast northern regions, including Bondukau and Savannah, known for its high-quality nuts and extensive plantations, just as Worondogu and Bagwe in the north central and northwest are also emerging as key producers. These regions not only drive Ivory Coast cashew production, but also support local livelihoods and economic growth. However, the country with over 29 million citizens is yet to fully realize the potential of its cashew industry. Despite being the top producer, the country processes only 7% of its cashew domestically, resulting in lost opportunities for value addition and job creation. Specifically, a recent data reveals that only 22% of the country's cashew nut output was processed domestically in 2023, even as the volatility of global cashew prices poses risks to farmers' income and overall economic stability. Concerns also arise regarding labor practices in some cashew farms and the environmental impact of deforestation for new plantations. To address these challenges and maximize the benefit of its cashew industry, Ivory Coast must focus on key strategies moving forward. These include investing in local processing facilities to boost job creation, export value, and farmers' incomes. Furthermore, the Ivorian government body overseeing the cashew sector, ARECA, must promote fair trade practices and ethical sourcing to ensure better prices for farmers and improve working conditions. Sustainable farming practices will also help to protect the environment and ensure long-term cashew production. According to a recommendation made at a workshop organized by the World Bank, tax exemptions and access to credit facilities will help to tackle some of these challenges. Furthermore, the private sector can also invest in research to develop high-yielding cashew varieties, improve processing techniques, explore new cashew products, as well as develop and implement digital platforms that connect farmers to market in order to facilitate financial transactions. Organizations like the Africa Cashew Initiative, ACI, must also assist in data compilation in the value chain at macro, meso, and micro level. By addressing this and harnessing its cashew potential, the country can further enhance its economy and build a more sustainable future for its citizens. Israel Adeyemi, reporting for SOUQ News.
The Three Wise Men. Iconic sculptures and statues adorn major metropolitan cities of the world. In Lagos, Nigeria, the statue of three men designed to depict the state's cultural heritage and to usher in visitors and tourists into the ever-accommodating center of excellence is no doubt an astounding work of art. Originally built under the administration of Colonel Raji Rasaki, designed by Bodu Shodende in 1991 and standing over 12 feet high, referred to as Agba Meta or Aro Meta, the three sculptured chiefs were placed along the Lagos-Ibadan toll gate to welcome people coming into Lagos State. The statue called the Three Wise Men by many has become a major signature for the state. Three white-capped chiefs clad in white wrappers knotted across the shoulders and with clenched right fist are shown in the artwork. The images fascinate and create impressions in the minds of visitors coming into the state, captivating the attention of visitors who look with keen interest, pondering on the messages which the posture of the engraved images signifies. The three wise men has been relocated thrice from its original position at Ojodu Berger end of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to Magodo area before its final relocation to its present site at Olowopopo Drive. The sculpture has suffered severe damages over the years and renovated. Bodun Shodende, through this sculpture, depicted the highest honor that can be afforded to anyone in the eco-greeting tradition. The three wise men, Arometa, SOUQ Enlightenment.
Take Nigeria because it's the mind that needs to first of all be rebranded.
He said he's going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigeria content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff?
Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is SOUQ Business Landscape.
Take Nigeria because it's the mind that needs to first of all be rebranded.
He said he's going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigeria content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff?
Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is SOUQ Business Landscape.
Welcome back to SOUQ Business Landscape. Let's continue. President Bola Tinubu has commissioned multiple projects in Kaduna State, praising Governor Uba Sani for transforming the state's development. In a one-day visit, President Tinubu inaugurated a 300-bed specialist hospital, 100 compressed natural gas buses for public transport, a vocational skills and training institute, and a remodeled Panteca market. Now Africa's largest informal skills hub with 38,000 artisans. He also confirmed 100 billion naira allocation for the Kaduna Light Rail in the 2025 budget. Governor Sani highlighted reopening of 535 schools closed due to insecurity, revival of 500,000 hectares of farmland, construction of 79 roads covering 780 kilometers, 62 new secondary schools, and renovation of 1,000 classrooms. He announced 6 months of free rides on the new buses for students, civil servants, and pensioners, along with a 50% cut in tertiary institution fees. Federal projects underway include Kaduna-Kano gas pipeline, Ibadan-Kaduna-Kano railway, Federal Medical Center in Kafancha, and the University of Applied Sciences in Kachia. Let me start with Priye. It's actually a well-resounding move, and I see Kaduna moving really fast. Do you think that?
I wasn't, well, to look at it differently, I wasn't thinking that Mr. Obasani would have been able to do this within 2 years. And I'm not surprised. Well, I'm surprised rather. So I see it's good, and the fact that he has done some of these things and is attracting 100 billion naira for the Kaduna Light Rail. Yes, is something to be applauded.
Yes.
Now, the Institute of Vocational Training and Skills Development caught my attention, and also road projects that were done in Soba. Road project in Samaru local government area, 24 kilometers in Kafanchan.
Yes.
Kafanchan, there's 24 kilometers road project fixed in Tudumbiri, 22 kilometers of road is being fixed, and 100 compressed natural gas buses for intra-city.
Which will be free for
At least
students.
for a short
For a
period.
short period,
And
yes.
just for the phase of launch. Well, we really hope that this is how it's going to go. However, I must equally acknowledge also that the spate of attacks and killings that used to take place in the previous administration in Kaduna State, we don't hear more of such again in this current administration. So it's something I want to, I don't know what Mr. Sani Uba did, but it's something I want to applaud him for. Because I know we have some journalists there that I speak to, and it's something I want to applaud him for. And 300 bed for specialist hospital, well, the students that will work or the doctors that will work in that hospital, we need to start making arrangements for that because we have a lot of them who have left the country. But these are good initiatives and things that Sani has done, and I think if I were to be in the mind of Mr. President with regards to what he said when he went to Benue, he doesn't want to come here and condole with you because of this terrorist killings here and there, people dying. This is not what I want to be traveling to your state to come and do. I want to come to your state to come and commission projects and all of that. This is what he wants to see. And whether the president is in political party, is in APC, if a PDP governor is doing likewise in his state and needs just to show it to the public, the president will be invited for that purpose.
He endorsed the Enugu State government.
The good thing is, what the president has done has several implications. Apart from the social one that we've seen, free healthcare, free this, opening of schools and all, there's the political side that we cannot even ignore. Because right now, the APC as a political party, ruling party, has come to say, those infrastructure over the years that these people have not done, let's be doing it. And they've been consistent. If you even use Lagos as a model, you can see even in transportation, they've done it in the health sector. They are just building things everywhere. Now you now have an APC president that's taking after one. Buhari tried in his own capacity. Tinubu has now come in now and is just taking the thing from like 0 to 100. Let's just keep building.
No.
I'm saying he's just taking. I'm saying he's taking it from 0 to 100. I didn't say he's there yet now, because he's pushing the track. The ball is, if you check in recent months, he's been going from state to state commissioning projects. Done in even. Wike is so proud now that
he's give it to him.
In the FCT, you are now beginning to think maybe this place is another state on its own. Some will argue whether it's a 37th state, but that's not the point. It's the fact that the APC has now stood their ground to say we are an infrastructure-driven government, and that's what we are focusing on, irrespective of whether the governor is from an APC party or a PDP or whatever it is. The last time he was in Enugu State, just like Dr. Bradley pointed out, most of the things he was saying, you now need to ask yourself, has the governor of the state decamped?
Who knows, it might defect tomorrow.
For me, it's leadership. I was so bad when I listened to him speak in Benue. And there was a statement, and I was saying to my colleague yesterday, I'm not sure whether the governor got the message. And he said to him, you are a progressive governor. Progress is what we want to see.
Yes.
As a progressive governor. So anybody who is progressive. And I think it was Soludo at the platform recently who made that thesis that all progressives should come together. He can see that is a progressive and see what Mr. President is doing that is progressive, and that as we move toward 2027, all the progressive should come together.
Irrespective of the political party.
Yes. You can have a common ideology. But the point here is the fact that the president is actually happy on some good things that are happening. Yes, El-Rufai did all the best he could do in terms of being cerebral governor. Everybody know that. He tried to cultivate that. But you see, the clannishness around him was what was actually spiking
the issues in Kaduna. That through his regime, there were one trouble or the other in Kaduna. You are hearing killing. But in
Southern Kaduna.
Southern
All the
Kaduna.
time. All
Yes,
the time.
all the time. But in the last 2 years, somebody had come into the saddle and is providing leadership.
The same APC.
The same APC. In the same Kaduna. So which means really, the problem is really not about the people. The problem we suffer is about the elite who profit from the chaos, whatever it is that's happening in the environment. And these are issues that, of course, Mr. President is speaking to. So it doesn't really matter who is in power, whether you are APC or PDP, it does not matter. But as long as you are a leader, you should know how to be able to embrace people. I was saying to the governors, I said, take torchlight. Go around in the night. Walk around. Yeah. Ask questions. Ask for help. People who can help you. Because you are the one governing the state. It's not we. We are only giving you support. So what that means is that you have a president who is open-minded and actually want people to be as progressive as they can be. Yeah. But that said, is to see that we have to commend the governor that is trying very well and is bringing peace to the southern part of Kaduna. Look at that project. The entrepreneur or the vocational institution. Yes. 3 senatorial zones, even including southern Kaduna. So it was not just as if I'm concentrating on one side or the other side. I read Lee Kuan Yew approach, if you read from third word to first word, where he actually said that though he was a Chinese, because he needed to manage the diversity in Singapore, he was not going to send his children to a Chinese school. Rather, he sent them to a Malay school where they can learn another language different from Chinese. So he was more tilted toward the Malays and the Indians, which were the minority, even though the Chinese community constituted 60% of the entire population, because he knows that if people see him as an ethnic bigot, they will not give him the support that he needed to transform the society. So what they were importantly focused on developing a culture in Singapore that will transform into innovation and creativity. He said he summoned the leaders of the Indian community and said to them, you see, your children, they are not doing well in mathematics. We can provide infrastructure, but the moral support has to come from you. You organize your children together so that we can develop, because a time will come in this country, you will see that the people from this side are better than your people. And the people, then of course, will be complaining as if they are marginalizing you. They have to level up their skills. So therefore, you create that platform, we will give you all the support. And after 1 or 2 years, you see that the people from the Indian community started to pick up in mathematics, which of course, what they were actually aiming at. And that's what leadership is about. Identifying some gaps and see how to turn that gap into opportunity. Okay. So what is Mr. President saying? He's saying here, if you are doing well, people will give you support. True. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter your tribe. It doesn't matter your color. But if you recognize the humanity in each and every one of us, you will get the support. And I think that was the endorsement that SOUQ got
in fact,
for that.
Priya, let me add this to you. Okay. We've all praised the progressives and all that, but let's look at sustainability. How can Kaduna State, how can they actually sustain these ambitious projects in long term?
Okay, so the thing is, it all boils down to if the same leadership that Governor Sani Uba is providing and birthed all this infrastructure, and we are seeing, I think the same leadership, the plans that birthed this, also have a sub-plan for sustainability. Now, if you look at this Institute of Vocational Training and Skills Acquisition, so what are they training them on? If you are bringing in 100 CNG buses for intracity commute, do we have the CNG plant located in Kaduna State? So what are you training them on?
Are there jobs available?
Are there, okay, fine. Let's say this alone is going to is availability of jobs. Because if 100, if the plants are available,
not all of them will.
Yes. Let's say even if a foreign company is bringing the technology, they should bring them into the skill acquisition and vocational training development and the institutions.
Which means it must align.
It must align, because if this 100 billion for Kavacha light rail. Of course, we are bringing other people to come and build it. China, I'm not surprised that we might be there.
Yes.
But the thing is, skill acquisition. We must transfer this knowledge. This technology back to our people.
Yes.
There are the days where, I don't know if it was Doc or someone said that you are bringing the foreigners to come and build infrastructure. You are having students, whether they are coming from CWS, from the universities that they are studying engineering, science, to come out, you work and you observe, you ask questions. It must be embedded in the agreements and in those the agreements, the conditions for which we are giving this contract to the Chinese companies so that they can train them. However, there is the president, praised Sani Uba, and when I watched the conversation he had with Hyacinth of Alia of what's the state again, of Benue State,
Benue State, yes.
like, and he was giving some good advice to the governor. I like what else the president did, because if he had not done that, I would have made that today's conversation. The responsibility of the protection of lives and property stops at the desk of Mr. President. Whether there is a carnage, there's a killing in Bayelsa, in Ogun State, in Kano, or in Plateau, in anywhere in this country, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, sir. And he looked at the Inspector General of Police and said, why haven't there been any arrests? He asked the question, why are there not arrests yet? And he turned over to Christopher. And he said, Christopher, I know, yes, you've been sleeping in the bush for a while, talking about the Nigerian army. But look, something needs to be done. I'm glad he made that statement. And Mr. Egbetokun, please, we need people, yes, whether these people can say they are carrying out reprisal attack or they are, I don't care whatever reason they carried out that attack. Mr. Egbetokun, in collaboration with other security agencies, must bring those people to book. Because if you do not do that, development, it hinders development. Insecurity hinders development.
Yes.
And Mr. President must make sure that he keeps calling these people if he's going to do it himself.
Well, he also told the governor.
Yes.
So because, I mean, just to add to what Priya said, because you did mention, how do we sustain this?
Yes. Truly,
because
so we don't come back
like you said, we don't development
this,
communication commissions, and then we come back and say the commissions are not doing what we told you to do. Yes. So we can give or provide solutions or alternatives. First, ensure that transparency in the execution of these things. Everybody can see, if I say I'm allotting 1 billion naira for this project, first off, make that 1 billion available, and then let us see that this project is actually done with that 1 billion.
In stages.
Even if you are not going to finish the whole money, or you are going to finish and ask for more, let's see what that 1 billion has given you, even if it's just one step. Another thing is having people embrace whatever project you are doing. Because it's one thing to say, I have provided 100 CNG buses. If nobody enters the buses, what's the point? Having communities own projects. Okay. Because you have done these projects. You are seeing it that in the long term, because you are talking about sustainability.
Yes.
In the long term, this thing is going to yield to something else. Let the people buy in. He was assertive when he said, make them part of it by saying, maybe a Chinese man is building it, to learn it, so that the next time he won't have to call him and not call you to come and do it, to continue. That's sustainability. Now we are now saving more money. We're not bringing people, we're not doing it ourselves. There's one adage we used, and it worked for me when I was doing my research project at O-level. It says, when you want to make a child that does not like a food to eat that food, make him join you in cooking it. He will want to taste what he eventually cooked. He may not eat it eventually, but the fact that he has joined you in cooking it, he might want to taste it. And then that way he has owned it. So when you say, you want to create a link between Kaduna and Kano through rail, many of them may not even know what a train looks like. Doctors will say, we are building this track now, we don't even know what a train looks like. That is part of what you have been community leaders. Doctor was even, when doctor mentioned the fact that, these people have this behavior of having leaders who are not there's this dichotomy between the leaders and the led.
And the led, yeah.
Bring them together. Make them understand this thing. Have a conversation. The elites are human beings. They also exist in these places. Eventually, it's not that many of them too are myopic. They don't get to see, oh, this project, if we even let it see to the end, we too might benefit. But they might just say, okay, maybe this project now, for you to get from kilometer 1 to kilometer 5, maybe they want to construct it. I may not even be a construction person, but just give me so I can be a part of it. That is where they are thinking. But if you start saying and say, okay, by the time you finish this project, everybody in this community is going to benefit. That way.
Yeah,
sustainability.
But what you have to understand is that sometimes I just use my experience to be able to put inferences. I was sharing with some sort of people, and I think I've said it on this table on a couple of occasions. I tried to participate in local politics as a student. And of course, while we were going there, growing up as a child, I needed to go to other community to go play football. Because that was where the primary school was. So in my community, there was no, and that when I had that opportunity, that I missed to play football in my community, because every time you go to the other people's community, they own the facility. And of course, sometimes fight comes. And so, and that was really not quite very pleasant. So when I had the opportunity in 1992 to be part of a political party movement, I said, okay, they asked, I said, what do you want? If you can help us win, what do you want in your community? And I said, I need a primary school. And I said, okay, no problem. We'll give you a primary school if we win. We did all our calculation and our work, and we won. And he said, right now, we are going to give you a primary school. Where is the site? We showed the site. But funny enough, the opposition party in my village didn't want the school to succeed.
There you go.
Okay, so they didn't send anybody.
They didn't want the school to succeed. The first was that they brought argument that the land does not belong to the community, it belongs to the personal family. I was able to go through all of that with a sheer stubbornness to say that this must be done. And then the school was eventually built. And they were even having those conversations in the village, saying that let even see who is going to go to that school.
That's what I'm saying. If you don't know that part of the project,
if government does not see children in the school, they will close it down. You see,
turn it to a farm.
You see, this is a problem, and it's a problem about orientation. And I remember when I was sharing this same
vision.
No, my experience
with
somebody recently, and he said, it dawned on him, and he said, oh, I had same experience. Because when I lived in Ojodu, there was this road, they tie every road around. So, and I was wondering, so he went to the ballet and asked him, I said, look, every road in this place, did you people commit offense against the government that they are not tying your road? And he said, the ballet said, well, it was only small money we asked them to bring, and they didn't bring.
So we left it out.
So really, it's not so much about the elite, also, it's also the role. Just to corroborate the point you have made, that the people are also very critical in its sustainability. Because if we politicize projects, we can sustain them. And that's why you see when every new regime comes in Nigeria, they abandon what other projects they are done and start their own new project. And the state resources are being wasted. Now, this is the orientation that we need to have. That politics is not an end in itself. It's supposed to be a vehicle toward an end. And what is this end? That the people are developed. Politics is not religion. But we have elevated it in this country to the status of a religion. That once a man belongs to a particular camp or movement, as long as things are not done the way you want it, therefore it's not done at all. And you are fighting tooth and nail to see how to sabotage that problem. This is where we're at a crossroad. And if we must be able to get across this bridge, then there's a whole lot of enlightenment that needs to be done. That when we belong to political parties, we are not in a court. We are not in a religion. What we are is just that we are thinking about how to fast-track development so that the people can benefit, because this is what matters eventually. Because even in terms of appointment of who govern these institutions, you will find that, of course, political loyalties are considered at the, to the detriment of people who could have the capacity to drive and manage the infrastructure. These are all the conversations that we will need to have. That if we must run government as a business, emphasis must be on merit and not mediocrity. It must be about who can do the job, not the extent of party loyalty. That even if we are going to drive it by party loyalty, we also have to look for somebody who is competent enough to drive the process. And that is the only way we can actually sustain some of these big projects that we see happening around us.
Having square pegs in square holes, not square pegs in round holes. But there's one, sorry though, just to add.
Less than 30 seconds.
Just want to say, I think one of the things that we also need to take in cognizance for sustainability is the security part. Because that Southern Kaduna thing, we just hope it's not a temporary fix.
No, but security is solved. If people see that the man who is at the helm is not taking side, if it's objective, because the issues that we are dealing with, the issues that we are dealing with, they have been here for God knows how long. It's not as if the issues are just imagined. And that's what I say to people. When you want to look at the problem in South Africa, this started yesterday, this started in 1999. It has been there even before the military came. So that problem is over 30 years. Some of them are almost 100 years issue. But why have we not been able to address it is because we have not seen a leader who stands and is not taking side. And all that is appealing is peace. And that is why, of course, again, there's no way we cannot talk about some of the parables that Mr. President threw. Nigeria, we are one family, under one roof. We're only living in different rooms. We must understand that reality that we are one. And therefore, somebody must drive that oneness. That irrespective of where you come from, irrespective of the religion you belong to, irrespective of your party affiliation, irrespective of your class status, that we understand first and foremost that we are human beings and we need good and decent life. And somebody is driving that agenda, you see, he will have mass support. And these security issues that we talk about, they can actually be negotiated away. That is my takeaway from the president's visit to Benue, that negotiation can solve our problem. It will not necessarily have to be the hardware, but the soft part of that military solution may be better off in the longer run.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll take the last topic. Stay tuned.
Take Nigeria because it's the mind that needs to first of all be rebranded.
He said he's going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigeria content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that, you know, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff?
Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is SOUQ Business Landscape.
Welcome back to SOUQ Business Landscape. Let's take the last story for the day. Nigeria has urged members of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to deepen regional cooperation for a stronger and more resilient economy. Minister of Foreign Affairs Yusuf Tuga made the call at the 94th Ordinary Session of the ECOWAS Council of Ministers in Abuja, highlighting the need for unity, compromise, and decisive action to unlock the region's full economic potentials. The minister announced that the West African Economic Summit, which will hold in Abuja today from 20th to the 24th of June 2025, the summit will bring together private sector leaders, policymakers, financial institutions, and investors to drive investment and trade. A dedicated deal room managed by the Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Fund will facilitate concrete business agreement. Heads of state will also present their national visions, aiming to advance regional integration and reduce dependence on external economies. Let me start with Priye. Regional integration, that's one of the main focus. What is Nigeria bringing to the table?
Nigeria is bringing, in fact, a whole lot to the table. If care is not taken, I can even say Nigeria is being taken advantage of. Yes, because we have the market. I could remember before we even entered the African Continental Free Trade Area, before former President Muhammadu Buhari could have penned his signature to that document. We have some countries from North Africa, talking about Egypt and some of them. They came to tell him because he didn't even want to sign it in the first place. Because most international relations experts and scholars were telling Mr. President to please hold on. let us scrutinize the document properly, because we do not want to fall into a situation where Nigeria is not the market, become the dumping ground. They look at our population, 250 or 220 million people. There's an army of consumers there. They start shipping everything down to our country, and because we have the population, we just keep buying and making the economies of this African country, and we don't produce. We don't just become a market. So we are bringing a lot to the table. The reason what I am looking at the moment is that Mr. Yusuf Tuga, please give an advice to Mr. President. Our ambassadors that have been recalled from our embassy,
a whole lot of them.
Please, can you please bring them? Tell Mr. President, let them hasten the appointment, because we heard that names have been sent to Parliament for their verification, and probably the SSS is conducting background search on these people to make sure that security-wise they are fit for that position and they would not compromise the state. But as it is now, we are economically, we are compromised, because an ambassador is not just there. Our ambassador is the ear, the eyes, and the mind, the brain of Nigeria, the mouthpiece of Nigeria in those climes. Now we do not have them. That means if it comes to some decisions that can be taken by Nigeria in those sittings, we cannot do that because we do not have a political representative that is supposed to use that platform to attract, because he's supposed to communicate to the president that, look, this is the way this country perceives Nigeria. And the way they perceive us, it might compromise our economy one way or the other. They are not really friends. Because you have your ambassador in that country does not mean you are really friends. No. It's just, sometimes it could just be for trade reasons. But how do you know if our interest is being protected there? So I think keeping them back is taking too long. And if we are coming up with this meeting, gladly it is being hosted in Nigeria. Yusuf Tuga is the host, is the host of this for African countries. So what is he telling them? What is he going to tell them if we do not have our ambassadors in those countries? What are they going to do?
Emmanuel, what are the economic benefits, or what economic benefits are of this to Nigeria?
To Nigeria, because I was going to have the West African countries already will benefit because it opens up more markets for them. But if we are not saying Nigeria alone, first off, we are the head of ECOWAS is our president. And it's obvious. We already know the man is transforming a lot, even as a country, as we've seen it. From our last conversation, we're seeing he's doing infrastructural development. It's expanding that same thoughts to the rest of Africa. Because now you're going to be depending less from maybe aids from the West or Europe, as it were. And now depending on what you can do internally. I like the fact that as Nigerians now, one of the push for this arrangement is to have more private sector involvement. So you can now see, you're not getting monies from inside to push on these things, which invariably might still benefit them in the long run. So I see Nigeria looking at, okay, we are championing these things, apart from the fact that the leadership is from us, but because we see as the big brother of this place, we stand to gain if we do it well. We stand to gain a lot tapping into new markets and not so much having to depend on people who are outside looking in to help us decide on how we go. Infrastructure-wise, agriculture-wise, trade-wise, market-wise, we stand a chance. I just hope, because that was the fear Priya also mentioned, I just hope that we don't miss this target and just become a place where our innovation doesn't come up anymore. People are now, since we are not getting this thing cheaper from, because it's cheaper to import, for example, from a closer border country than from overseas, as we like to call it, literally over the seas. When we now see, we can't get this cheaper, let's no longer bother ourselves. We now sit down and become lax. But once we can tap into this thing and say, okay, we now produce more. How can Nigeria do that? We produce more and push most of what we have to these other places. We stand to gain better.
All right, coming to you, Doctor. One of the what birthed regional trade, one of the things that regional trade has encouraged is the African Continental Free Trade Area Zone. Since its inception, would highlight some of the things, how will I put it, highlight some of the things that we've made, some progressive moves that we've made. Then also, looking at this summit and now, what do Nigeria itself, what do they stand to gain, basically?
Well, I think what's quite worrisome is the way we tell our stories as a people. You see a lot of investment in capacity building. And most of the time, as a person who has been out there trying to help people develop capacity, and one of the things that's quite very demoralizing is that when people come for a program, not for the benefit of what the program is going to give, but for the pecuniary gains that comes from the program. So you are organizing a training. People are actually not in the training because they want to acquire more knowledge, but they are more particular about what social benefit that comes from the training. And this is a big problem. And this is what happens in most of the conferences in Africa. We end up in a talk shop. And we say so many things, and we're actually not doing so much. And I think integration will start by human capital development in Africa. If you go to Benin Republic, for example, I'm going to tell you, a child in a secondary school or university in Benin will know more about France than he knows about Nigeria.
Yes.
So these are fundamental issues that Africa need to address. Because if we say we are one, we must paint the picture of oneness, as it were. So you're not seeing Nigeria maltreated, for example, in Ghana, or Ghanaians maltreated in Nigeria, or vis-a-vis. You see in South Africa, who is, for example, an anti-black people, who are supposed to be his brother. That is happening because there's so much of ignorance in this space. And I think that deliberate enlightenment by African leaders to ensure that they are investing in developing curriculum that focuses on our own history, it will make a lot of sense. When I was in a history class in my undergraduate, my professor said to us, in 1964, he was in a university in the UK, and the professor was teaching them history of the world. And he said the history about every other continent. And then one of the black students asked and said, of course, we taught us history of Asia, history of Europe, history of America, but there's no history of Africa. And he said, all that is in Africa is colonialism, the rest is darkness. Wow. And darkness cannot be part of history. And that was in 1964, according to him. So these are the kind of conversation you have. And he gave us the name of that professor. I think it was a professor, trying to remember his name now, who made that assumption, that the rest of Africa is darkness, and darkness cannot be part of history. Cleveropa, that was the name of the professor. So you see that that kind of a conversation is what we are taught. We know so much about America. But if you talk about America now or England, everybody know. Even in recent time now, I talk about football. We know all the team players in Spanish
Premier League, yeah.
But the local league, we don't know. Even Ijebode, Ikorodu, United. We don't know the names of the players. This is worrisome, and I think this is where we need to start. We say charity begins at home. Yeah. And as we begin to tell our story, that integration can become better. We will have a waffle, for example, that is strengthened, even in terms of football. We will have a trade united. But as long as we're just doing this for talk show, and then we go back and then do the same old way, like they say, according to Albert Einstein, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome could be the right definition of insanity.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for all your powerful thoughts, your thought-provoking thoughts. This is where we draw the curtains this week on SOUQ Business Landscape. It's been a pleasure staying with us. Let's do this again next week. Don't forget, like, comment, and share on our social media, all our social media platforms at SOUQ News Television. From here on, I am Olumide Sokoya. Take care.
And I'm Oyinpreye Krumale. You can follow me on Oyinpreye 8 on Instagram and Oyinpreye 5 on Twitter.
Idahosa Osamhanze is my name. Follow us on all social media handles and follow the conversation and be part of it.
And I am Emmanuel Amolo. Thank you so much for watching us.
Take Nigeria because it's the mind that needs to first of all be rebranded.
He said he's going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigeria content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that, you know, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff?
Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is SOUQ Business Landscape.